The scene opens with Zamyatin, a bald man on the 24th floor accompanied by a woman. Zamyatin is relatively new to this prison. He has a fondness for pizza and fried chicken. At one point, he tried to take a piece of fried chicken, but his floormate did not allow it. The inmates on the floors above also scolded Zamyatin. There was a reason for this. The prisoners had agreed to choose one favorite food, and no one was allowed to take anything but their chosen food. This meant that Zamyatin could no longer choose fried chicken or pizza. The rules remained the same. Inmates stayed on random floors for a month, and the lower the floor, the higher the number. They were not allowed to store food, or else the temperature would become extremely cold or unbearably hot. Suddenly they received news that a wild boar was on the second floor. Wild boar referred to a disruptive prisoner who refused to let others eat and hoarded food for themselves. Upon hearing this, Zamyatin's female companion Peruan immediately urged him to prepare. Zamyatin, having never faced a rebel prisoner before, remained silent while Peruan was ready, armed with an iron bar she had taken from her bed. However, one of the wild boars was already dead, lying on the food. This meant there was still another one on the upper floor. Sure enough, another wild boar was being beaten by other inmates, and it didn't take long for them to kill the second one. But during the fight, much of the food was thrown out, and they had to quickly retrieve it. Witnessing how the prison worked firsthand, Zamyatin made a joke about stealing some food. However, the joke fell flat, and instead the inmate who had fought back wanted to take action again, planning to throw the bodies of the two wild boars into the hole. The inmate reminded Zamyatin that there were a total of 333 floors, and there were prisoners on the 333rd floor who were capable of eating anything. This situation was due to the greed of the prisoners who never left any food. At best, food would only reach floor 160. Shortly after, the male prisoner grabbed some food, not to eat, but to throw away. This was because the food belonged to inmates who had already died. This method helped prevent any prisoner from taking more than one serving and causing envy among the others. The man then descended to the lower floors, going down to organize each level so that everyone could receive a fair portion for the common good. From that moment on, Peruan and Zamyatin strictly followed the rules. If even one person disobeyed, the consequences would be significant because all the prisoners were constantly watching each other. As time passed, Zamyatin didn't mind following the rules. His portions shared with Peruan were always enough, and they routinely took turns cleaning themselves. Their relationship grew closer as they fed each other, and soon a month passed, which meant their floor assignment would be randomized again. This is when things took a bad turn. Both Zamyatin and Peruan were trembling because they had been assigned to floor 180. As was said before, it was a miracle if there was any food left at that level. The two prisoners on floor 181 were in a state of complete anxiety, and Zamyatin, for the first time, realized he wouldn't have anything to eat for an entire month, a duration that was no joke. With no hope left, Zamyatin didn't want to even look toward the hole in the floor anymore. He just played with his lighter, trying to cope with the intense hunger. The two prisoners on floor 181 had already lost their minds. Only Peruan managed to endure, waiting day by day without being able to eat anything except leftover bones. Eventually, Zamyatin became severely ill, and there was no way to treat him. But now the end of their struggle was approaching. Zamyatin purposely waited for scraps of food to rise from floor 333 up to floor 1, relying on a gas mechanism to push them up. In the end, Zamyatin succumbed to his condition, and flames engulfed him, leaving behind signs of his presence. Meanwhile, on floor 333, a blind man appeared, surrounded by many followers. A month passed, and Perempuan was assigned to a different floor. This time she was on the same floor as Tina, a young woman who claimed to have been there for only 4 months. Unlike before, floor 51 didn't seem too bad, with a good chance of getting food. Perempuan noticed that Tina had only one arm, which was the result of a fight in her first month with a prisoner known as the Master. Not long after, news spread that a wild boar had caused trouble again on floor 56. Without hesitation, Tina immediately prepared to take Perempuan down with her. There was a rule that only prisoners from the 4 floors directly above or below the wild boar's floor could join the fight. Since Perempuan and Tina were on floor 51, they were already breaking the rule. However, with some smooth persuasion, they managed to convince prisoners from floors 52, 53, 54, and 55 to join them. This was risky, and one prisoner refused to participate, choosing to stay on their floor instead. On floor 56, the wild boar launched the first attack, but was soon cornered by the group of prisoners fighting back. The wild boar lived with a prisoner who had Down syndrome. In a surprising move, Perempuan deliberately let the wild boar escape, an action that left Tina displeased. In short, Tina and Perempuan had to live on this floor with a special needs prisoner. One day they heard screams coming from the hole, along with the movement of the food platform. It turned out there was a prisoner tied beneath the platform, being treated like garbage on every floor, with no one caring to find out why. The sight piqued the curiosity of the other prisoners. Eventually it was revealed that the prisoner had fought someone, and that person was Daging Babi, the blind man. Daging Babi and his followers arrived, specifically looking for Perempuan and Tina. Suddenly they were instructed to eat as much as they could. Daging Babi had deliberately come up on the platform to ensure that the food remained intact for the 2 women, but he had an ulterior motive. Daging Babi was upset after learning that Tina and Perempuan had broken the rules. His plan was to make Perempuan's hand the same as Tina's, taking one of her hands. Daging Babi and the special needs prisoner watched this unfold together. That month was filled with immense suffering. Perempuan was spared and given a chance to live. To her surprise, she found herself on the same floor as Trimagasi, the elderly man who at this time was alive. They were now on floor 72, which wasn't too bad, especially for Trimagasi, who was in his first month of experience in this place. As expected, Trimagasi's greed hadn't changed. He ate whatever was in front of him, caring little for the rules, and he reveled in conflict. Perempuan became intrigued and convinced Trimagasi to join her on the platform with one goal: to fight Daging Babi and his followers. With hope held by many of the prisoners, they decided to ride the platform upward. No more rules. Freedom became the ultimate goal. From the top floor to the bottom, more and more prisoners joined them, climbing onto the platform. Once the platform was full, they decided to settle on one floor before the battle, celebrating this moment together. Trimagasi, the elderly man, couldn't believe it was all happening. As we know from the first platform, he had a great fondness for eating prisoners. They continued to wait for the right moment to confront Daging Babi, who was on the upper floor where food disposal was taking place. This shocked all of them who were waiting. It was undoubtedly Daging Babi's idea to prevent the rebels on the lower floors from eating. He wanted rules to be followed as a foundation for life in this tiered prison. Yet, at that moment, the rebellious prisoners couldn't believe that all the food had been thrown away. However, it became clear that the arriving platform was empty, even though they were still on floor 80. Daging Babi had truly succeeded in turning the tables. He even stated that if the prisoners wanted to eat, they would have to abandon Perempuan, the one who had inspired the rebellion. Tempted by his words, some of the rebels retreated, but Trimagasi immediately countered Daging Babi's statement, suggesting that they should just eat the followers who were below them instead. This sparked a sudden surge of motivation among the rebels after Daging Babi's assertion was easily dismissed. Trimagasi's presence was celebrated like that of a hero. With the spirit of the elderly man, a new eating strategy was developed that left the rebels satisfied. For the first time in a long while, they experienced an extraordinary sense of satisfaction. However, a few days later, Daging Babi and his followers couldn't remain quiet any longer. Daging Babi urged his followers to fight against the practice of cannibalism. And the results of the battle revealed that Peruan and Trimagasi were the ones who managed to survive, while Daging Babi, dubbed the Master, was left powerless before them. Daging Babi's intentions were good and noble, but his position of power made him less wise, which was something the fallen rebels opposed. In short, since that incident, all floors of the prison were cleaned, revealing how the guards managed and organized this tiered prison. Eventually, every fallen prisoner was gathered into a single mass. They would all be taken to floor 333 to be used as food. At that moment, Peruan secretly escaped and hid under a bed on floor 332, where she noticed a prisoner who had never caused any trouble. He was sound asleep, seemingly looking for a new companion. Peruan quickly crawled out from under the bed, intending to use this prisoner as a message, but her head hit the wall, causing her to lose a lot of blood. After the cleanup period, Peruan brought the prisoner onto the platform, intending to descend to the lower floor, which was floor 333. Her arrival was meant to signal to the prisoners on that floor that one prisoner had emerged unscathed after the fierce battle. Soon she was approached by the prisoners on that floor, who gathered around her to witness the unharmed man. They quickly invited Peruan to join them, while the male prisoner was left on the platform, soon to be sent up to the highest floor. Once again, they aimed to send a message to the higher-ups that, no matter how chaotic this prison was, each of them still had a conscience. However, years later, this message would also be delivered by the other prisoner, indicating that their pleas had never been heard by those in power. Previously, the message had been delivered by Goreng when he sent a girl on the first platform. This metaphorically illustrated that no matter how high they rose, they always ended up back at the bottom, or in a mass cleaning that would soon lead to the recruitment of new prisoners. It was truly tragic what Peruan experienced, followed by Goreng and then the next prisoner. Regardless of their plans, it turned out that Peruan and Goreng are the couple, and in the end, they meet again. And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.